So how's it buying a car there? Is it like really comparatively easy? How different it is from India?
I think no one here is focused on which model of the car you have. So specifically, so when I bought my car, I have an Audi.
Talking about your company IKEA, how is it working for IKEA being super?
Hierarchy kind of thing here, which is flat hierarchy, what we say. So even though I have a manager, but he and I talk like more as a friends.
India, to your colleagues, to other Swedish people, they have a general mentality about India.
For the first time, that what have you tried Indian food? They would say yes, and the first thing which would come from there, from them is that butter chicken.
Hello everyone, welcome to Staying Indian. Today we are joined by Rajeev Jain. He's joining us from Sweden, Mälmö. That is an headquarter to one of my favorite companies. Welcome Rajeev.
Hey Gaurav, thank you so much.
So Rajeev, today we are going to talk about, you have been living in Sweden for last 2.5 years. You did all the, immigration stuff during COVID. But before we do that, how we connected was through your Instagram channel. Tell us more about Jaipurite in Sweden.
So I think the name itself says Jaipurite in Sweden. So I'm from Jaipur. I belong from my native city is Jaipur, and I moved there 2.5 years back. I'm working with IKEA as a cybersecurity manager, and I have a wife and a son who was born here in Sweden. So in last 2.5 years, I've gone through all the different kind of experiences. 1.5 years back, I thought of I should share these experiences, because when I was planning to move to Sweden. And it was COVID, so I was in obviously lockdown. So I used to, search YouTube, Quora, and every other places for some knowledge about Sweden, how to live here, how to settle down, what works, what doesn't work, how to, get comfortable into a Swedish environment, all those, questions. So, but I couldn't find much. I thought of, let's start sharing it. Let's start sharing it with the people, because a lot of people come to Sweden for studies. There are some good universities in Sweden, so they move here. And then all the big IT companies have their, offices and clients in Sweden. So a lot of Indians are already present in Sweden. So one day, I like I said, I've recently become a father. So I got to know about the parenting benefits in Sweden, which are superb. So I post a reel on my same Jaipurite in Sweden page, and then it went viral. So I have for that particular reel itself, I have right now 999K views. So it's about to touch 1 million views. So that's what actually triggered, that moment that, okay, now I should start doing it seriously. Even though I was already doing that, but more or less was travel and food. But then I got to know that a lot of people are interested to know Sweden. So yeah, and since then, like now I have almost 30K plus followers on my page. Nice. And I try to post 1 or 2 reels a week, depending upon how much time I have. But yeah, I mean, you can find a lot of information in that page about Sweden, my experiences and everything. So if you don't follow, please follow me on Instagram.
No, definitely. And I'll share the link in the video as well. So first of all, Rajeev, congratulations on your baby boy.
Thank you.
What you guys have named him?
So we have 2 names, to be honest. My wife, Noah. So we call him Noah at home. But right now, everybody calls him Noah. But to have an official name, which should be Indian name, as per my parents. So we have named him Arav. So he's named Arav, official, but he listens to Noah right now.
Nice. It's an exciting journey. I also became a father 2.5 years ago. Enjoy a moment.
Yeah.
How do you find it different, let's say, from India? What kind of daycare centers or does he go to?
In Sweden, you can send your kid to school, preschool or play school, once he or she is 1 year old. So, I mean, we did enroll or put in an application for him to go to the school, preschool. And so now we have got a school, and he'll be going to school from next month. So that's a play school mainly. The mandate here is that till the time your kid doesn't go to school, at least one of the parents should be at home to take care of the kid. So that's why I'm at home right now. I'm taking those responsibilities. But it's quite friendly. I mean, Sweden is, I've never heard or seen any country with this much child benefits in terms of healthcare, education, support. I get both me and my wife can take 480 paternity and maternity leaves combined. at 240 each. And in that duration, you also get some part of yourself. It's not like you don't get anything. Plus, your company is also here in Sweden. They support. I mean, I've told these stories to my family and friends in India a lot of time, and then they're like, wow. Wow moments for them every time.
Yeah. So is daycare also, paid by the government, or is it something that you need to pay yourself?
So preschool needs to be paid. So we are going to pay something that's, a small amount, not free.
Okay.
But the education, which starts, the proper teaching school starts at the age of 6. That is free if you are, going into a Swedish school. Free.
Okay. Very similar to here in the Netherlands as well. One thing also that, we get here is a lot of companies which sell like clothing, which sell diapers, give you a free goodie bag when you have a newborn, right? They'll send you just need to subscribe and they'll send you goodies.
Yes. We received those quite a lot in the first 6 months. I mean, you can start picking them earlier as well. But the first 6 months, we got a lot of those, packages. Yes. I'm enjoying. I'm on paternity leaves right now. Again, taking the benefit of the parenting benefits I mentioned. So I'm enjoying it home with my son right now.
So interestingly, you mentioned that, you did not find a lot of information. And I know for a fact there are a lot of Indians living in Sweden, because I myself lived in Sweden for over a year for a company called AstraZeneca, which is a pharmaceutical company. And there are so many people working in different companies. And I'm kind of, boggled why there is not much information on internet.
I think that it's more about how interested you as a person are. Like, I'm quite interested in sharing information, creating content and, videos and all that stuff. And it has to be regular. I mean, if you post one video once a month, then it doesn't even matter. But I think 3 years back, I moved in here on September 20, 1st September 20. But I was supposed to move in 1st of April. So it's just, I would say early 2020 when I was looking around on YouTube. There are a few channels. But again, I think they were doing it as a hobby or time pass thing, so they were not consistent and not enough information was shared. And Reels didn't exist that time. Instagram Reels or Snapchat and all. So I did read a lot on Quora. I knew 2 or 3 of my colleagues or ex-colleagues who moved to Sweden. So they did share their viewpoint. So I had some idea, but there are so many questions you would want to hear, and unless someone experiences it, then they would be able to share it. So I have experienced a lot in the last 2.5 years, so now I share it.
Definitely, and we'll try to address as much as possible in this video. And even if we can't, people can reach out to you or me and please answer them. So Rajeev, Mälmö is situated really quite near to Copenhagen. How do you travel between Copenhagen and Mälmö?
Yes, I think Copenhagen is the closest big international airport over here. So even when we moved here to Mälmö, we actually had our flight from Delhi to Copenhagen. And then there is a 20-minute ride from Copenhagen to Mälmö. There is a bridge, Horizon Bridge, and that's quite popular. So it takes 20 minutes ride.
Because Copenhagen is in Denmark, and when you travel from India, your port of entry becomes Denmark. So let's say, you're traveling for the first time, you get a Swedish visa. Is it recognized easily by Copenhagen that, this is intended to? Okay.
Yes. They do check your, work permit card or resident permit card, what we call it in Sweden. And they allow you to enter through Denmark. So anybody and everybody who lives in Mälmö, they come through Copenhagen airport, because there is a Mälmö airport, but it doesn't have connections, I think, outside Europe. Most of the flights which go is within Europe. So that's why everybody has to come through Copenhagen, and it's quite easily, there is no issues with that.
And the bridge that you were describing is really beautiful itself. Half of that bridge is over the sea and half it is under the sea, right?
Yes. So if you are flying to Copenhagen from anywhere, you would see that bridge, when you're landing into Copenhagen, and that's where, the beauty of that bridge is visible.
Yeah. So talk us about, your life in Jaipur, and then how did you decide that you want to move to Sweden?
So I left Jaipur somewhere in 2013 to join my first company where I was placed through my college. So my career started from September 2013. That's when I moved to Noida, joining my first company. And since then, I've changed 5 or 6 companies and even cities as well. So I moved from Noida to London. I stayed in London for 1 year. Then I moved to Gurgaon. Then I moved to Bangalore. And from Bangalore to now Mälmö. So I've changed 5 cities and 5 companies in last 10 years.
Okay.
That's the overall journey. But how I ended up in Sweden is, if you work in IT, you're bound to work with Europe or US and UK based clients, right? So I've also worked with a lot of those clients. And from my own experience of living in UK, or London to be specific, for 1 year. I mean, I really got interested with work-life balance, work culture, how people are, down to earth, and no expectation of working beyond your working hours. I mean, all those things, and I can say 10, 20 things right now. But yeah, I mean, there was a, instant attraction to, that I should move here. And then I'm quite, I'm a person living in Jaipur, where the temperature goes around 45 to 50 in peak summers.
Yeah.
But I somehow have a body that I still sweat in 25 to 30 as well. So I always had this, from my, on personal choice that I have to move to a cold country. I cannot survive in a hot place because I sweat in a closed room. So you can understand. So yeah, there are different reasons. But I worked for Ikea for a short period of time as a consultant. A long time back, like 2017, something, mid 2017 or something. But then I left the job and I moved to Bangalore and joined a different company. But I got interested from my London experience, from working with, there used to be a lot of clients who used to visit India, offices. So since then I was like, okay, I need to go out.
So interestingly, you pointed out about work-life balance, right? So a lot of people who are looking for, jobs in Europe have that one as number one priority, right? Because in Central Europe and moreover in Nordic countries, there is a good work-life balance. You have a lot of time for yourself. You have a lot of time to learn new things, right? It's not only about working 9 hours or 10 hours in a job, but you can also develop yourself.
Yes. I mean, again, from my own experience working in Sweden, and specifically in IKEA, I think I've never worked beyond 5. I would say that's the official time. Until it's my personal choice, I have something to do. But officially, the way the companies works here, at least in IT, I'm not sure other fields, that you don't have to work beyond 5. This has been told to me day one, that whatever you do, your family is the first priority. So my manager, he's quite good in this sense. I can tell you an incident where, the first summer, like 21 summer, there was in Sweden, I mean, obviously you are also in Europe, when there is good high, temperature, everybody starts, going out because to absorb as much sunlight, I think.
Yeah.
So there was a day when, and again, one more point, in Sweden, everybody kind of takes 4 weeks or 5 weeks vacation during July and August period, which is, the peak summer. So I don't, generally not any or every immigrant takes, because they have a different culture. So I was working. So then I received a call, from my manager that, okay, you should go out. You should enjoy the weather and take your family out. And this is something you should be enjoying here in Sweden. It's very few days where you get good sunlight. So this is just an instance or an example, I can say. But, working here has been a great experience in terms of managing my family as well. I give a good time almost on daily basis to...
Yeah. No, definitely. And, when you move to European countries and, it's your first summer, you don't realize the importance of, the summer that is. And as you start to live here longer, then you realize, oh, yes, summer is really important, because that's the only time where you can, explore, and a lot of new things are open and which are closed during winters, right? So, but, before we dive into much detail about working in Sweden, can you tell us about the immigration part, when you got a job in IKEA, especially during COVID?
So, luckily, I was, my hiring process was done before COVID, somewhere around December 2019. And then my visa process was going on and I got the visa. And I was supposed to join here on 1st of April. I packed my bags. I sold all my stuff in Bangalore. I said goodbye to my family in Jaipur. I came to Bangalore. And on 23rd or 24th of March, lockdown was announced. And I was like, oh man, I've sold all my stuff. I was supposed to travel to Sweden. I packed my bag. I left my, previous job. Now, I'm not sure if I'm not able to travel to Sweden, will I be able to join my, IKEA, job? And there was a time during those 1 or 2 weeks where I was quite worried. But then IKEA supported me and I started working from India. And for next 6 months till the time I moved there, I worked from India. But with respect to the immigration process, I think all the companies, they have, this, there's another company which they work with who manages all the mobility process. So they handled it quite well. So the visa process that time was quite easy because it took, like, any company in Sweden can apply for visa, but the problem is that companies have fast track certificate, which they call here. So if a company applies the visa with fast track certificate, 3 years back, the decision used to take like 10 days. So I got my decision both the times in 10 days, right? But now with all the changes, happening over last year, this even with the fast track certificate, the applications are taking 2 months, even more than that. And without fast track, I've asked a lot of people on my Instagram channel, without fast track, people are waiting for 1 year, 1.5 year, 9 months. Everybody had a different experience. So I think the main difficult part of migrating to Sweden is the waiting period for that decision.
Yeah. And that's the difficult part, right? Because you are in transition period, right? You are going to leave or already have left the job, and then you don't know on which certain date, I'm supposed to apply, and you have to make so many arrangements accordingly. So, but let's say, you have crossed all this and you have landed in Sweden, what are the first few things that are really important? Like, how difficult it is to find a place, to get a mobile connection. What are the first few things?
Again, it depends. Like I said, for me, my company hired a mobility team, so they found an apartment for me. So it was easy for me. But before I moved in, like I said, I did a lot of research. I got to know that finding a house is difficult in Sweden itself.
Okay.
It varies from how much time it takes in different cities, but it's difficult to get a rented house in Sweden. And the process is that you need to be in a queue to actually, get into or get an apartment. And to get into that queue, previously you need to have a personal ID or a personal number. That's like your social security number kind of thing. Yeah, in Sweden. So that is a challenge. And then there are different processes, which is like getting a personal number, ID. You need to get a bank ID through which everything works in Sweden. Whatever app you use, whatever system you use, be it, Swedish tax agency, migration advocate, bank, all the services, you need to have a bank ID. So that's the most important part, which you get only when you have a personal number. And you can get a personal number only when you have a visa more than 12 months. If you have a visa less than 12 months, then you cannot get a, personal number. So then there is a different challenge altogether.
Okay. And you were doing all this during COVID period, right? So how were the lockdowns and how Sweden managed COVID?
So I moved in here in a window where things opened a little bit, even in India. So the lockdown was, removed. But then the picture was completely changed how it was in India. Like the day last 1 month before moving to Sweden, I moved to Jaipur. And then I stayed there almost at my house. I didn't meet anybody because everybody was, concerned about COVID and everything, mask and all those restrictions. But the day I moved here, and this is an incident which I want to share, is that Sweden had a different approach, right? So it was completely opposite to India. So when I moved there, the first day I went into a hotel and we thought of buying some groceries. So we had our mask on. Obviously, we came from India, and we went out grocery shopping, bus and everywhere. And I saw that nobody is wearing masks. And everybody is, seeing us like why we are, wearing masks. Me and my wife, we both were there. So then the first day I joined in my office, I discussed this, with my co-workers, and I got to know that, over here, again, that first day, I'm saying 2020, that because wearing mask was not mandatory. So if whoever is wearing the mask, people would think that, he might have, some symptoms, and that's why they are wearing a mask. So, that was a very change of, a situation.
So, that shows how different, medical policies or systems are in different countries, right? So you also had your child there. So if you compare, you obviously would have seen, let's say, medical systems in India. If you compare that with life in Sweden, how different it is?
So I had used the medical system over here mainly for two reasons. One, obviously, for my child, but my parents were here, so we had to use emergency services as well. And that's again an experience I had with the medical services. And from the child perspective, at the same time, my friends in India, they also had, were about to have kids. So we used to talk about the process here and the process in India. So so that was totally different. Like over here, we got signed up with a maternity clinic where they have midwives. That's what we call here in Sweden, who takes care of the women who are pregnant. So we got appointed to one of the clinics, and then it was like totally different experience. We didn't even have to worry about anything. Like we had appointments booked for next 6 months, which dates they were tracking what my wife is taking. They did all the tests about what's sugar. There was an issue with sugar with my wife, so they said that you don't have to take sugar. So we actually didn't have to worry. During the entire 9 months, everything was taken care by the midwife. And again, everything was free here in Sweden. So I was paying my taxes, and then this I don't remember I paid anything for since my wife got pregnant till the time we bought our baby at home. We didn't pay anything. But similarly in India, I remember my friends used to say that they had to book a package in a private hospital that, okay, this is a package you need to book, which will have this kind of a room or this category of a room or this this time and all that thing. during the delivery time or before the delivery time, not the during delivery time, when you actually have to get them to the hospital. The process part is a little bit difficult because you have to call a number where you have to tell them all the situation, and they will analyze over the call. Okay, you should come to hospital or not. So then we had to call like 4 times, and the 4th time as well they said you don't have to come till now. But eventually we went into emergency services, and then 4th time the delivery was about to happen.
So I think what you highlighted was super commercialization of healthcare system that is happening in India, right? So everything is on private players, right? And if you compare it with all European countries, because it's quite similar in Netherlands as well, what you just described, it's all paid by the government. So you don't have to pay anything to the hospital, and that makes it uniform across for all citizens. So it does not differentiate between if you have a higher, let's say, if you have deep pockets to pay extra for things, right? Yeah. And everything comes out of your insurance. You have to pay a premium on monthly basis, and insurance takes care of everything.
In Sweden, actually, you don't even have to pay for that insurance. It's covered. So we don't pay any extra insurance. Yes, we do pay life insurance. That's a different thing, but not medical, because medical is covered.
So that's a difference. We have to buy insurance here in Netherlands, and that has different categories, whether it covers dental, physiotherapy or not. And that covers, your insurance package covers everything. But talking about LCK, in the first few months, did you multiply everything by 8 and see?
Yes and no. I mean, it depends. Like if you buy smaller things, you generally don't do that. But when you go and buy some expensive things, like I remember our first shopping experience, like buying some jackets and shows. When you move here, you need to buy that. That time we used to do that. Oh, it should have been cheaper in India, and it is expensive.
Yeah. With a newborn, traveling becomes a constraint. Has that become a constraint for you guys? Did you guys explore Sweden a lot, or
I don't think so. That's an issue because, like I said, Sweden is a child-friendly country. We have a stroller which we can take in buses, trains, anywhere. I mean, it's there is an option to take even if you're going to a restaurant or anywhere. I mean, it's a child-friendly place. Now we have a car as well. So we bought a car last year after we had a baby. So I mean, the car seat is mandatory till a certain age. So there is no issue with traveling. The only issue is the weather. So if the weather is good, you can go anywhere, because the kids get sick quite quickly. So we have to just make sure that the weather is nice. It's not completely good. Then it's totally fine. We have explored last summers in and around Mälmö a lot. This year we are planning to go a little bit far outside Mälmö because he's 13 months old now. Let's see. It's quite easy. I mean, there is no issues with kids here.
So how is it buying a car there? Is it like really comparatively easy, and how different it is from India?
Okay, so over here, when you will, most of the time when you'll ask anybody what car you have, they would say the brand name. I mean, you'll hear Volvo a lot because I think Volvo is like Maruti of India. Everybody buys Volvo in Sweden. But I think no one here is focused on which model of the car you have. So specifically, so when I bought my car, I have an Audi. So like everybody was talking about Audi, not the model which I bought. So that's the way how we talk about cars here. But my experience of buying a car is quite good, because there are 2 ways or 3 ways you can buy a car. Either you can buy a used car, or you can buy a new car on loan or finance. But then you can also lease a car, which is quite common, I think, all across the Europe. So I explored all those options first, and decided which car I want to buy, what would be the better deal to get, and then I got myself an Audi. And again, in India, if you want to buy an Audi, I mean, it's you should be either rich or you should have enough money to just buy it. So and that's one of the thing I like there, is that it is affordable to buy a car. Be it Audi, be it Volvo, be it any other big brands. And the second thing is that the culture here is that I would not do a show off that I have an Audi, because buying a car is not Audi or Volvo is something like, oh, how we do in India. Like if I have an Audi, I would like to go around and show that okay, I bought an Audi. So that's a very good part of living in Sweden, that everybody here is so down to earth and modest that there is no show off culture, right? But it's quite easy to buy a car. I mean, you just have to go and agree on what car you want, and then they would, simply give you a deal, and you don't even have, because there are not, let's say in India, we have for the same brand, we have different dealers within the same city, or, in different cities, different prices. That's not, over here. So you just have, if you want to buy an Audi, you just go into an Audi showroom and you would get the same deal. Either you buy it in Gothenburg or, I'm not sure, in Stockholm, but yeah, it's same. So it's quite easy.
So during winters, do you also have to put those chains on the tires?
No, we actually have to, the policy here is that you have to get the tires changed. So there are different summer tires and different winter tires. Right now I'm driving with winter tires. After 31st of August, 31st of March, I can change it back to the summer tires, which I can drive till, I think, till October or November, before the winter starts. But yeah, you have to change it. Nowadays, some car models have started giving all-season tires, but I'm not sure how successful they are.
So, talking about winter and summer, right? So, how difficult it is to adapt to the weather and constantly changing, time zone factors.
Okay, so when we moved there in the first year, it was a little bit difficult because we moved during winters, and winters here is that the day is short and night is long. So you start getting dark around 3 or 4 in the afternoon in peak winters. And then there is complete opposite in summers, where some gets sunlight till 11 o'clock in the night. So yeah, first year was difficult, but it was. I mean, from time zone perspective, my sister, she lives in Chicago. So and my family now is in India. My parents live in India, and we are in between. So we actually have to work around 3 different time zones. So we always knew that it's going to be a fight. But then I think gradually after the first winters and first summer, that's where you have to make sure that you don't do stuff which is which could be an issue, and then it's easy. Like right now, I'm waiting for those summers, even though the summers are going to be till 11 o'clock, but then you start enjoying those extra sunlight. And in winters, you don't do stuff which you do in summers, like go out that often because it's cold, it's dark. But then we do a lot of house parties. We go to friends' place, they come to our place, and that's how you live in summer winters where you socialize at home instead of going out.
So one question that whenever I'm talking to someone in India, this is the first question they'll ask: what time is it there now? It's such a common question. What time is it there now?
I had this idea to make a reel, but I think it still happens. It still happens with even though it's been 2.5 years, but now it happens with the people with whom you don't talk that often, like once in 2-3 months or something. But now our parents or cousins or friends, they are used to it. So they are kind of they know. But then there are some days where we get a call 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning. Somebody called us, and then they didn't know, obviously they didn't know the time zone thing, but they thought of calling us because they had something to talk, and then we're like, no, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we call them back once it's around 8 or 9. But that things happens. That still happens.
Living in India, you have these huge, let's say, bungalows, huge living spaces in India. And when you come to European countries, it kind of gets a bit squeezed. So how is it finding a house, and what kind of houses do you get in Sweden?
Mainly there are 3 kind of houses in Sweden. And this is again from my experience, because I recently bought a house or apartment. So one is apartment. The other one is you get a row house, which is more of a apartment kind of thing, but in a form of a villa, something. And then the villa itself, where you own the complete bungalow. So I bought an apartment recently. So that's where you have small spaces, not like big houses in India. So I think if you are, me and my wife, we are quite happy with what space we have, because a lot of things at home we have to do it by ourselves. So bigger the house, bigger the responsibilities of cleaning and maintaining it.
So talking about your company Ikea, how is it working for Ikea being super?
I think this is, like I said, my 5th company or 6th maybe, and this has been the best work experience I've ever had. The reason being, again, like I said, work-life balance, which is quite awesome. The way how you interact with your coworkers, there is no hierarchy kind of thing here, which is flat hierarchy, what we say. So even though I have a manager, but he and I talk like more as a friends, and then I think the good part working in Sweden, or maybe I don't know, maybe other European countries as well, that over here you grow as per your potential, not because you have experience number of years. Like in India, I've worked, I've seen people that, let's say if I have 10 years of experience and I'm still an engineer, let's say junior engineer or senior engineer, people might start raising questions. Why am I not, going as a team lead or becoming a manager or, eventually as you grow, your stability, your position, job security, everything starts, going into a different direction. And that's what, again, one of the reasons why I wanted to move to Europe is that over here, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to, yes, you should grow. Growing is something different. But then I think I've seen people who are happy with the position they are working in, with the work they are working with, and there is no peer pressure of, moving to next position.
Yeah.
The jump you have to make, right? So that is quite, a different way of working in Sweden.
Exactly, and I think that's something very common in from a cultural aspect as well, that people do things which makes them happy rather than doing things just for the sake of doing work. So a lot of people are very self-content in being an engineer, and they like their job, and that's why they are doing that, and they don't want to move to another positions because that keeps them happy and that keeps them life in a good balance.
But I've seen people here in Ikea and in Sweden as well that they tried things, it didn't work out, they were not happy, so they switch fields. They switch fields from whatever field they actually started their career. So and that is quite good. But if you're not happy, you don't have to work in that field or position, and you can still go and try something else.
So when you talk about India to your colleagues, to other Swedish people, what they have a general mentality about India?
And they all are quite excited when we talk about India. Food specifically, culture, and festivals. Whenever there is an Indian festival, recently Holi was there, then Diwali, then we talk about those things and how we celebrate those festivals in India. Even from food perspective as well. If you ask somebody here for the first time that what have you tried Indian food, they would say yes. And the first thing which would come from their from them is that butter chicken or chicken tikka. That's the only thing which they might have tried. But then I think the picture they have from Indian food perspective is very small.
Yeah.
And then that's where I'm trying to change my co-workers and friends, is that whenever we go out, I try to take them to an Indian restaurant. Last year we went to Berlin, so one thing was mandated that you have to go to an Indian restaurant with me. And then I ordered something other than butter chicken and for them. Yeah. I invited them, like I said, I love cooking, so I've invited them, some of them at my home as well, and treated them vegetarian food as well. That's they're quite, and then they say it as a surprise that, oh, we didn't knew this food. Because some of the Indian restaurants here in Sweden, in Europe, is they don't serve authentic Indian food. They've changed their taste as per European taste. They're spicy, completely different picture. And then when they eat that stuff, and then when they eat food in India or here, then they are quite surprised. Last year I went to India to Ikea Mälmö office with two of my Danish colleagues, and then I took them to different kind of Indian restaurants, and they had North Indian, South Indian, the Chinese, Indian food and all that stuff, and they were quite happy and surprised that they had this experience. And then we went to temples as well. They're fascinated towards temples. Luckily we were there during Ganesh Chaturthi, so they saw that Ganesh immersing process as well, and so many other things. Clothes, I bought kurtas for when I first moved here. I bought kurtas for some of my Swedish co-workers, and they really liked it. So yeah. I think and now because IKEA extended into Bangalore, so we have an office in Bangalore in last year or year before last year. Now everybody is more interested to go to India. MT co-worker has never been to India, and when we talk to India, they say that we want to go. That's been the amazing part of it.
So Rajeev, what is your go-to dish? You said you are a very foodie person. What is your go-to dish that one thing that you absolutely love?
I love dal makhani, and I make good dal makhani. I mean, people have treated dal makhani, they like it, and that's my go-to food anytime. And then I'm a vegetarian, so for us, paneer is something we can eat any time. So I think dal makhani and any paneer dish is those would be the first thing I would order.
So next time when I'm in Sweden, I have to taste your dal makhani then.
Sure, definitely.
Well, thanks Rajeev. Thanks for doing this, and it was really nice chatting with you. Hope to see you soon in Sweden someday.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm hoping that I've shared some, if not all, of my experience. But I mean, if you want, you or the audience here, if they have more questions or want to know more, I think you have my Instagram channel where you can connect with me.
And reach out to us, comment us for any questions that you have about Sweden. Thank you guys.
Thank you.